welcome to my channel. Today we are doing a tier list, as you can see in front of you, for all of the leaders revealed in the Dawn of the Legend of Z set, as well as the structure decks that come out along with that set. It's just kind of a nice video. We've got all of the cards revealed now, all of the commons, the uncommons, the rares, the SPRs, the SCRs. It's all there. All for our eyes. We can see exactly, make up our own opinions. You can make your decks on DBS Deck Planet, jump on Untap and test away and test my knowledge on what I think is going to be the best deck of next format. Well, not the best deck, but the best of the bunch. Which ones are the best, which are the worst? That's what we're going to find out right now. Starting off with a yellow leader in Bardock, Inherited Will. This boy is a yellow Saiyan, which immediately, in my opinion, is a very good start. All of the yellow Saiyan decks are pretty strong, except for Goku lineage. That just the engine is just too thick to do much with. But it's off to a good start. But I don't think this deck's that strong. Spoilers. When you play a Bardock crew card, draw a card. When this card attacks, use up to one yellow Bardock crew card with 5000 combo power and you drop bear combo with skills negated for the turn. And then it's activate main, choose one Bardock crew card in your battle area and switch it to rest mode. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode and KO it. So I don't think this is super strong. It's an okay leader to start off with. I don't think the Bardock crew cards that come with it are anything special. So overall, I'm going to have to set it's not a great start, but he's a yellow Saiyan and he might be stronger than what I think he's going to be, but I don't hold that much faith in him. So I'm going to say C tier, but now obviously we have to bear in mind that popularity of a deck, popularity of a character will play a factor into it. If there's a lot of people who want to play Bardock's crew, and also the fact you got to remember there's Bardock crew cards out there are yellow blue and blue Bardock crew cards. So we have seen yellow Saiyan leaders exploit the blue exploit Sensu Bean, is what I'm trying to say. And the fact that Bardock comes with an innate or a natural set of yellow blue cards and blue cards that could work in the deck to exploit Sensu Bean, similar to what Turles and Trunks Gogeta are doing. This can probably do it a bit better. So that's it. You know, one thing it's got going for it, but overall I just don't think it has anything particularly special. I don't think it's gonna really. I'm putting it in C tier because I just don't think we'll see an awful lot of it. I think people who are playing Trunks Gogeta will stick to Trunks Gogeta, especially with no ban list, no poutine. There's no reason to really move away from Trunks Gogeta for Bardock's crew. Moving on to the other yellow leader. Now he's quite strong, but he has a huge drawback, which I'll explain in a second. So we'll read the leader first and say once per turn. If it's your turn, when you play a yellow card in your drop area or a Z battle card, draw a card. So that's pretty strong. And it's pretty strong. Just getting hand advantage when this card attacks. Draw a card and discard a card. So you're drawing two cards and getting rid of a card that you might need in your drop area for doing a bit of comboing later on. Very good for fixing your hand and being able to gain hand advantage on your opponent. And then you can discard one card from your hand, use up to one yellow battle card with 5000 combo power from your drop area and a combo with a skills negated for the turn. And this card gets plus 1000 power for the battle. That's incredibly strong. I really like this about the leader. Not only on your activate battle do you get to discard a card, if all you have is extra cards in hand and you don't have much in your drop area because you overwhelmed or something like that, you can simply discard a card. If it's if you have like one battle card in your drop area, you can discard an extra card from your hand, and then suddenly you have something to combo with. It's pretty good. But not only are you comboing, you're getting plus 1000. That I can tell you will be a lifesaver for a lot of players playing it. Now I mentioned the drawback. The problem with this leader is that all of its battle cards and all of its extra cards seem to mention that you can only search or play superhero cards, which there isn't that many. The only superhero cards that exist there in this set. So it's a very limited deck. I think it's a strong overall leader. Don't get me wrong, but it's quite limiting in a quite linear strategy. because it only has the cards that are in that set to play in it. So I'm gonna have to put in the B tier. It could possibly drop down to C tier, but I do think the leader's quite strong. I think the strategy overall for what you're getting, and just, you know, the fact that you have access to a lot of solid staples in like Power the Super Saiyan and Bergamo, Mecha Frieza Robotic Repost and so on, which is a little weaker now with the Zenkai. The fact that you can switch Z energy to rest mode makes it a little weaker, but you know, still strong, still a lot of solid cards in yellow. So I think it's a B tier deck. We won't see a lot, but it's definitely going to be tough to beat. We're moving on now to green. To Son Goku, Krillin, Yamcha and Master Roshi reunited. I'm really happy that they made this deck green. I really feel like World Tournament gets overlooked a lot of the time. I don't think we've seen any World Tournament support since Battle Evolution with Tien, which was a deck that largely gets overlooked and now has indirect support thanks to this, so maybe we will see Tien pop up. But anyway, when this card attacks, draw a card, then use up to 1 green, throw a school card with 5000 combo power, when dropping a combo with skills negated for the turn. As part of the course for this set, choose 1 Master Roshi training in your battle area, place it in your bonus drop. For each throw a school card and a different character name, in your Z energy, and it gets plus 5000 power and double strike for the battle. So it's interesting, but overall I don't think this deck is super strong. The support in it isn't particularly amazing, but you do have a lot of options. As I mentioned, you can pull cards from the Tien deck, so I think it's a bit of a glass cannon deck, to be honest. I think you're going to have huge smacks at your opponent, but because it's green you don't have a lot of great defensive options, and I just don't think this is really going to trouble anyone or get a lot of attention. So overall I'm going to have to say this is probably not going to be very high up. I'm probably going to just put this into the D tier. Not that I think it's really bad, I just don't think it'll get a lot of attention. Overall I just think because it's not going to get a lot of attention, we're not going to know what its true potential is, and sadly it'll just be a deck that we don't really see. I don't expect it to break into the top cut, and that's why I'm putting at D tier. I just don't really see a chance for it to get into the top 8, as I said. Anyway, King Piccolo, anyone who knows me, which is very much nobody, knows that I love King Piccolo. I love the red deck, it was my favorite deck by far. I'm so glad that we're getting another Demon Clan King Piccolo leader. However, this one's green, which green probably has the worst staples of any color, I think, pretty easily. Yellow, red and blue, geez, they have some incredible cards compared to what green has. Very little. But the brilliant thing about this leader is not only does it play very similarly but more balanced than the red King Piccolo, it actually has synergy with a lot of the red King Piccolo cards. Quite a few of the cards of the Demon Clan cards say that you can play a Demon Clan card without specifying the color. I think one of them specifies that red or green, which is really good, especially with the fact that Piccolo Jr. Eradicator of Peace can be played in the deck. I think this deck will show up, will have a strong start, might disappear for a little bit while people try and figure out the best way to play it, but I do think we'll see this in the meta for a solid amount of time. I don't think it's quite S tier, I don't think it's top 3 decks, but I think it's going to be a deck similar to Cooler in strength. I think a bit stronger than Cooler. I think we'll see this in top 16s quite regularly, especially with the fact that I think a lot of people really enjoyed the red deck and they'll probably try this guy out. This is probably the best deck, I think, out of all of Dawn of Z, just because it has so much going for it, and the fact that it's a Gogeta deck, so there's a lot of cards that were released previously, promo cards, and you know, just from the red Gogeta deck that came out. I think Supreme Rivalry, I believe it was, or it might have been Vicious Rejuvenations, I can't remember. The red Gogeta deck, that was incredibly strong for its time, and this is building upon that. It's got access to some of those incredible cards, but also the fact that it has a really strong boss monster in the set, the Shenron. Because this leader has a Z leader available to it, you can use the Shenron boss monster, which is just a fantastic Turles all too easy. But just for red, it's a really good SR, SPR. that's going to work wonders in this deck. So you can use mono red rest mode Saiyan cards in your combo, so you're only going to pretty much be playing out mono red Saiyans, and basically you can attack with them and then combo them away. Really strong. Your Gogeta GT cards can attack your opponent's battle cards in active mode. You never know when that's going to be incredibly useful. It might get rid of some annoying floodgates if your opponent doesn't want to attack with it. And when your Gogeta GT card attacks your opponent's battle cards, your opponent skips their defense step, which you might think, is that big of a deal? Well, I tell you, it is very big deal, because Miraculous Transformation SSG Goku is the bane of a lot of red players' existence. That card comes out, negates it, and you can only attack that freaking annoying card. But having that effect means that when you fuse out your Gogeta card, a lot of them are all 20k and upwards in terms of attack. The fact that you can fuse those Gogetas out, and then this guy gains the Gogeta to his thing, so he becomes Gogeta card, so you get an extra attack on that Transformation Goku. And if they don't negate the attacks to protect the Miraculous Transformation Goku, they can't defend it at all. You just have to combo one card away for this boy to attack him, or your Gogeta should be enough to kill him. And yeah, I think it's incredibly strong, it's incredibly good. And when this card attacks, draw one card, then play up to one red Saiyan card with energy cost of 1 from your hand in rest mode. So that's really good as well, just because you will be able to play a Vegeta or Goku card that searches out the ladder, or searches out a Gogeta card. So it's incredibly consistent. I really like this leader, and it's got a Z leader, so I think it's going to be up there. I think it's going to be better than U7. Maybe that's just optimism, but with the way it's set up, you can actually use Unbridled Power in the deck really easily, along with the fact that it has a Vegeta SCR for the deck, which is very strong as well. It's a little bit weaker than Unbridled Power, but fits the deck a little bit better. And I'm not entirely sure, but there's probably you might be able to play the Broly. I'm not sure what the ruling is on removing the Gogeta card, because it says it's like some weird thing around the cost, whether you can remove or not. You can talk about in the comments below. Someone said to me that it's not the same as other cards that have that permanent add-on. I'm not getting into that, but I think there's a way you can play SS4 Broly in this deck as well, the SCR. But that's up to the judges to judge. Since Shenron is getting so much attention at the moment, a lot of people are saying this is going to be a super solid deck, and it is pretty strong. Activate main once per turn. Choose one of your Shadow Dragon battle cards and up to one battle card or unison. The chosen card gets minus 1500 power for the turn. So this is a pretty strong leader. It's really good, don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be very hard to beat because of the fact that it can clear your opponent's boards really easily, and it can choose the units and essentially minus a marker for most of them, because they all have around 1500 power or less. It's only like the AOD unison that has 5000 or has 20k power. Can't think of any. Well, it's usually the top 4s that have 20k. But yeah, overall he's a solid choice, and I think that he's going to be very strong in the meta, so I'm going to put him up into the 8th here. I think there's kind of a bit of awkwardness around Dragon Balls always when you're dealing with them decks that have Dragon Balls in them. It might be a bit inconsistent, but I'm putting it 8th here, especially the fact that it has a Z leader as well. Also Piccolo has a Z leader too, so at the moment the top 3 decks are all Z leaders, so you can kind of feel like Bandai has a bit more thing around them. Son Goku, another world fighter. I don't think this guy is the best. He's strong, but he's not as good as SS4 Vegeta and Gamma in my opinion. You can discard a card from your hand. When this card attacks, draw a card. Then you send 2 blue Another World Budokai cards from your drop to your warp. Add up to an Angel Halo from your drop to your hand. Once per turn, use up to 2 blue Another World Budokai cards with 5000 power from your warp in a combo, and they get minus 3000 combo power. And you have the skills to get it for the turn. He's one of those leaders where you have to sequence your turn incredibly accurately, or else you get punished for it. You have to do things in the correct order, and he's just not as easy to play as SS4 Vegeta and Gamma is. I think an SS3 reboot Goku as well is already there, so I don't see a lot of people being really that excited to get their hands on this dude. Also, when you're kind of going around with requiring angel halos and stuff like that in certain areas, it becomes kind of awkward and you might misstep, and you know, it's not as easy to play or as accessible as the other decks in currently the strongest blue decks out there. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in probably B tier, because I think there's some shenanigans you can play with this deck. It's not completely useless. Well, it's not. It's a good deck overall, but it's just not that accessible compared to other Goku decks that are out there. So overall, I just don't see this deck in a huge amount of play. But you never know. It's a little gimmicky, but we will see. And here comes Paikuhan. This is also kind of a reboot leader. He does pretty much the same thing, where he sends your opponent's battle cards back to their hand, which can be annoying. If you're it can be annoying for your opponent to have your best cards just bumped away. But the problem is it's not a great meta for him if yellow is going to continue being a solid color, because this does not ignore barrier, and a lot of yellow decks just have a lot of cards with barrier. Trunks Gogeta, it's not going to trouble Trunks Gogeta players too much, is what I think. And yeah, overall I don't think this deck is going to be overwhelmingly played. I think because I think as a Z leader in this deck, or maybe every deck has a Z leader and I just don't know. But yeah, I think that overall I'm probably going to put this in C just because of the meta it's coming into. I don't think it's super great. We're gonna move on to think, but actually Paikuhan does have some good cards from the last Paikuhan deck, some solid Gogeta stuff. So maybe that'll be the difference. But from looking at the current meta, I think it's a C. So now we're looking at black players. Rip to black, am I right? Like, they've got maybe, I think, the weakest leader in the set. They got, you know, every other color gets 3 leaders, including the structure deck leaders, and black has just been absolutely shafted by this freaking last 2 sets, man. Jeez. And this I just don't think is much more. Is it any stronger than Toa? Maybe with the Z leader, but like, when you would place a card from your combo area and drop area removed from the game instead, send 1 Demon Realm Race or Demon God card from your hand to your warp. When this card attacks, draw 2. If this card would be auto send 1 Demon Realm Race or Demon God card from your hand to your warp. When this card attacks, draw 2 cards. It's okay for getting your little engine pieces and stuff. You can get through your deck pretty quickly with a draw 2, but it's not exactly inspiring. If this card is in a battle, use it with 1 Demon Realm Race or Demon God card, both mono black, and without super combo from your warp in a combo. So you can't use the super combo, it has to be black. A lot of limitations on the deck. It's not a deck we're going to be talking about. I don't think black players will be moving to this. I think they'll be going to Dark Broly or playing SSG Trunks for next form. I don't see this getting an awful lot of play. I'm going to put in D tier. So now we're done with the booster box leaders, and we're onto the structure deck leaders. SS3 Gotenks Extravagant Assault returns. Extreme fan favorite leader. Him and King Cold were very much holding up green for a long time, and I do think this is going to be a strong choice. When you activate Union skill, play with 1 Ghost Token with 1500 pound rest mode. It's getting a kind of a reboot. Unison too. The SS3 Vegeta is getting a stronger version of that card, and it's already a strong Unison. So that's really good. And activate battle, you can remove the ghost token, use it with 1 mono green card with 5000 power combo from your drop area in a combo with skills negated. Just like the rest of them, I think this deck will be incredibly popular. I'm going to put in the B tier for now, just because green has very weak staples. Not much has changed for green relay, but I do think it has potential, especially if we see a Z leader later on down the line for it. Now here comes Uncontrollable. Great Ape Son Goku returns. Very strong deck. Very strong leader. He's a yellow stain. Always a great to see. Always a good strong start for any leader. Choose one of your cards and switch to the rest mode. When this card attacks, choose all of your opponent's non-energy cards, switch them to rest mode, and choose one. Draw a card, or you can add up to one yellow Great Ape Son Goku childhood card from your hand and shuffle your deck. Very strong. You can add, there's quite a few cards in the deck that are very strong, but also I think the Dripes might be a Son Goku childhood. I might be wrong, but the fact that if you can add those Dripes to your hand, that's just an extra freaking great card to include in the deck. If it's your turn, use up to one mono yellow Earthling card with 5000 power combo. You're dropping a combo here with skills negated for the battle. Now, it's really strong. I think this is going to be this is going to challenge Trunks Gogeta players to which one they want to play. I think this might actually be a better deck than Trunks Gogeta. Mic drop. But that is kind of a drawback, that has to be a yellow Earthling that you can only do a bit because of the fact that it will force you to have to play certain cards in the deck rather than just going all out on yellow Saiyan cards. You will have to kind of look away from the amount of great yellow Saiyan cards like Steadfast Assistance, SS4 Vegeta, so on and so forth. If you fill up your drop area with Saiyan cards, you won't be able to use the combo activate battle effect. But it depends how you want to play it. I still think overall this is an S tier deck. Maybe I'm completely insane for thinking this, but I think with the fact that Poutine's still around, and Bergamo's around, this switches all the battle cards to rest mode, so you don't have to worry about the majority of blockers, and you won't have to worry about your opponent's energy, because when you use this effect you can bring out Poutine and Bergamo. I know Bergamo's limited, but if you have Bergamo in hand, you can bring him out, get rid of two of your opponent's energy and put them at a real disadvantage. Then we're talking about Pan. This deck is going to be great, but it's going to be tough to play. It's going to have a high ceiling, and it'll really depend on how you sequence your turn, because if you mess up on what order you do your turn in, you get punished massively. But if you do everything the correct way, you gain so much advantage. When you play a battle card, choose it and you get plus 5000 power for the turn. If this raises that card 20,000 power more, draw one card. When this card attacks, draw one card. So if you're attacking the right way, this card, or when you play a battle card, choose that and it gets plus 5,000. So you can be attacking with 25,000 be either turn 1 or the first turn you get to attack. If this card raises to 20,000 power or more, draw one card. So basically if you play a card with 1500 power, which does a lot of them, you can choose that, it gets plus 5,000, and then you get to draw cards. So you're essentially drawing 2 cards every turn if you're doing it in the right order and you're playing the right cards. There's also quite a few cards that when you play them they can add plus 5,000 to your leader, so you can have some really big attacks just starting off. I did get a lot of usage of the original Pan Ready to Fight. You might want to look at my structure or my deck profile from a couple months ago, even though a lot of the cards are limited and banned. Not a lot of the cards, just some. There's some interesting ideas in there that might give you some ideas for your own build of this deck. Then it's activate main, so to one of your red Z battle cards with an energy cost of 2, and it gets plus 5,000 power for the turn, which is a little different than the rest of them. Instead of it being a card in your drop area to combo with, you're choosing a Z battle card. I think it's really good. I think it'll be a solid pick, but it's not very accessible, so I can see it being a B tier deck. And then we've got SS2 Trunks Envoy of Justice. All of them are reboots. This is a reboot of the Rise of the Unison Trunks deck that did not work. During your opponent's turn, if you would add a card from your life to your hand or place it in your drop area, you may reveal it, add it to your hand instead. When this card attacks, draw one card. At the end of your turn, switch up to one of your mono blue energy to active mode. Tap 2, draw one card, then choose one of your opponent's battle cards and place it at the bottom of its owner's deck. Additionally, if you have a mono blue Z battle card with an energy cost of 5 or more in play, this card gets plus 10,000 power and double strike for the turn. So it's a lot more aggro, it's a lot more reminiscent of the Skillless Gohan deck. It's kind of like a mixture of the Vegeta structure deck and the Trunks deck from prior, because the Vegeta structure deck for Rise of Unison allows you to give your units in triple strike and plus 10k attack. In this one, it's a bit more. You need a bit more happening on the field, it's a bit more situational, but still, you're gonna quite regularly be able to tap 2 and do his double strike 10k power. I think this is the strongest of the blue decks, but I don't think it's incredibly strong. Well, I don't think it's that much stronger, and I don't think it's as strongest in Shenron and King Piccolo, so I'm gonna have to put it in B as well. Overall, I think a lot of these decks could be great and might be great in the future, depending on the sport that comes out, depending on what gets revealed in the anniversary box, along with set 2 of Zenkai. I think there'll be a lot more Z leaders, and there might be Z leaders for these structure decks revealed later down the line. But overall, I think it's a very strong set. I think quite obviously it's going to be meta defining set. I think a lot of what we see at the moment, I think Gamma and Trunks Vegeta will probably still remain, dependent on how prevalent the Z Zenkai will be in the format, or how important it is to have access to Zenkai leaders and Z battle cards. If you can get by without them, we're here to see. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, this is a great time to do it. Remember to put a like on the video, comment down below on what you think. I'll probably try to remember to include a link to put up your own tier list if that's what you want to do. And remember, have an awesome day and goodbye.